Hello and welcome to Workers Comp Unwrapped, the podcast that simplifies workers' compensation for physicians. I'm your host, Max, here to give you clear, actionable insights to navigate the medical legal side of workers' comp. So let's get started. Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 18 of Workers Comp Unwrapped with Max. Meet Aisha, who has 15 years of experience in the workers' comp industry.
Hi, everyone.
Today, we're talking about
Blockchain.
Blockchain.
Yeah.
A beginner-friendly discussion of blockchain technology's potential to enhance transparency and reduce fraud in workers' comp claims.
Absolutely.
We know blockchain can sound kind of intimidating to some people, but trust me, by the end of this, you'll be able to explain the basics and how it could impact your practice.
Absolutely. And you don't need a tech background to grasp the core concepts. We'll keep it clear and simple.
Perfect. So let's start with Blockchain 101. What is this thing, and why should doctors specifically even care?
Imagine a digital ledger, kind of like a giant spreadsheet, but spread across multiple computers. That's the heart of blockchain. It's not stored in one place, making it incredibly secure and difficult to tamper with.
Yep.
Every transaction, like a bill submission or a payment, is recorded on this shared ledger.
Okay, so instead of one company controlling all the information, it's distributed.
Yes.
That does sound more secure, but how does that actually help doctors with billing?
Think about the issues doctors often face with workers' comp billing. Delayed payments, denied claims, endless paperwork. A lot of this stems from a lack of transparency and trust in the system.
Right.
Blockchain addresses this head on.
So it's not just about tech for tech's sake. It's about solving real-world problems.
Exactly. With blockchain, every transaction is recorded in an immutable, time-stamped way. This means less room for disputes, errors, and fraud. Imagine a world where you could track every claim, see its status in real time, and know exactly when to expect payment. That's the potential of blockchain.
That sounds almost too good to be true. Can you give me a concrete example of how this would work in practice?
Let's say you submit a treatment plan for a patient.
Okay.
Right now, that plan might go through multiple departments at the insurer, with potential for delays or miscommunication at each step. With blockchain, that plan is instantly recorded and verifiable by everyone on the network. This speeds up approvals, reduces errors, and eliminates the need for endless back-and-forth communication.
So more transparency equals less frustration, faster payments, and ultimately more revenue for doctors.
Precisely. But let's not forget about fraud prevention, which is a huge issue in workers' comp.
Sure.
Blockchain's tamper-proof nature makes it incredibly difficult to submit fraudulent billing, file duplicate claims, or alter records.
So if someone tries to, let's say, inflate their injury claim or submit a bill for services never rendered, the system would flag that instantly.
Exact. Blockchain's like having a built-in auditor that verifies every transaction. This not only protects doctors from potential liability, but also helps to create a fairer and more efficient system overall.
This is starting to paint a much clearer picture. But we know technology is never a silver bullet. Are there any downsides or challenges to implementing blockchain in workers' comp?
Of course. One challenge is integration. We need to figure out how to seamlessly integrate blockchain technology with existing EHR and billing systems, which can be complex. There's also the issue of scalability.
Yeah.
Can blockchain handle the volume of transactions in a large-scale workers' comp system? These are questions that are still being explored.
So while the potential is huge, we're still in the early stages of figuring out the practicalities.
That's right. But the early adopters are already seeing tangible benefits.
Okay.
For example, the state of Vermont piloted a blockchain-based insurance system that significantly improved claims tracking and transparency.
Okay, so there are real-world examples of this working. That's encouraging. But let's get back to the doctor's perspective. What are some tangible steps they can take right now, even before blockchain becomes mainstream, to optimize their billing processes and minimize errors?
That's a great question, and it's where things get really practical. The principles behind blockchain, like transparency, accuracy, and efficient verification, are things doctors can focus on today to improve their billing practices.
So it's like prepping your house before the big move. Get the foundation solid, and the transition will be much smoother.
Exactly, and that starts with meticulous documentation.
So detailed notes on every patient interaction, clear treatment plans, accurate billing codes.
Absolutely, and ensure your documentation is consistent across all platforms. Remember, blockchain thrives on standardized data. The cleaner your records, the better prepared you'll be for a blockchain-based system.
So step 1, become a documentation ninja. What else can doctors do?
Next, streamline your billing process. Identify any bottlenecks or areas where errors tend to occur. Are you submitting claims electronically? Are you using the correct billing codes? Are you following up on unpaid claims in a timely manner?
These are all things that can trip up even the most organized practice.
Exactly. Addressing these issues now not only improves your cash flow in the short term, but also sets you up for a smoother transition to a blockchain-based system down the line.
Great advice. So get the fundamentals right, and the rest will fall into place. Anything else doctors should be thinking about?
Coding is crucial. Even small coding errors can have big financial consequences in workers' comp billing. Ensure you have a deep understanding of the codes and that your staff is properly trained. You might even consider investing in coding software or outsourcing to a specialized billing company.
It's an investment worth considering, especially when you factor in the potential revenue loss from coding mistakes.
Precisely. And don't forget about communication. Blockchain is all about transparency and collaboration, so start building strong relationships with your payers.
So pick up the phone, have those conversations, make sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. The better you understand their requirements and processes, the fewer billing issues you'll encounter. And finally, stay informed about new technology trends in healthcare billing.
Because staying ahead of the curve is essential in this rapidly evolving landscape.
Right. New tools and software solutions are emerging all the time that can help you automate tasks, improve accuracy, and streamline your workflow. Investing in these technologies can give you a competitive edge even before blockchain becomes the norm.
Excellent points. So, to recap, doctors can get blockchain ready by focusing on meticulous documentation, streamlining billing processes, mastering coding, communicating effectively with payers, and staying ahead of the technology curve.
You got it.
These steps might seem simple, but they can make a huge difference in your bottom line and prepare you for the future of workers' comp billing.
They can.
Okay, we've covered the what and the how of preparing for blockchain, but now let's talk about the why. Why should doctors really care about this? What's the big payoff?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, for starters, imagine a world where you never have to chase down a payment again, where claims are processed automatically and reimbursements are instant.
That sounds like a dream for any busy doctor.
It is. Blockchain has the potential to remove so much of the friction and frustration that comes with traditional billing, but it's not just about convenience.
There's more.
Oh, yes. Think about improved data security. With blockchain, your patient's sensitive medical information is protected by the most advanced cryptography.
Which is a huge relief in this age of data breaches and cyber attacks.
Absolutely. And then there's the potential for reduced costs. By automating so many manual processes, blockchain can significantly lower administrative expenses for both doctors and insurers.
So it's a win-win for everyone.
Potentially, yes. Of course, there are still challenges to overcome, and widespread adoption will take time, but the early adopters are already seeing the benefits.
And for doctors hesitant to embrace this new technology, what would you say to them?
I understand the hesitation. Change can be daunting.
Sure.
But I encourage them to view blockchain not as a threat, but as an opportunity.
An opportunity to improve their practices, their bottom line, and the overall healthcare experience for their patients.
Exactly. This is a chance to be part of a transformative shift in healthcare. And doctors willing to learn, adapt, and embrace this new technology will be the ones who thrive.
That's a great point. This is about being proactive and positioning yourself for success in a rapidly changing landscape.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to go it alone. There are resources, experts, and even other doctors who are already exploring this space.
Excellent point. Collaboration and knowledge sharing are key. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of part 1 of our exploration of blockchain and workers' comp. We've laid the groundwork, but there's so much more to uncover.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into specific strategies doctors can implement today to optimize their billing and prepare for the future. We'll be back right after this.
See you then. Welcome back to part 2 of our exploration into blockchain and workers' comp.
We've talked about the potential benefits and the steps doctors can take to prepare.
But let's get even more practical.
Absolutely.
What are some common billing errors doctors make that could be minimized or even eliminated with blockchain technology?
One of the biggest culprits is inaccurate coding.
We touched on that earlier.
Right, but it's worth emphasizing.
Absolutely.
Using the wrong codes, even if it's an honest mistake, can lead to claim denials, delays, and lost revenue.
And I imagine those errors are harder to catch and correct in the current system.
Exactly.
Okay.
With blockchain, the system could automatically flag coding errors, saving doctors time and money.
That's a huge advantage.
Another common error is incomplete or inconsistent documentation.
So not having all the necessary details in the patient's record.
Precisely. Missing information, conflicting dates, or unclear treatment plans can all create roadblocks in the billing process.
And with blockchain, all that information would be readily available and verifiable.
Right. Think of it as a single source of truth for the entire claim lifecycle.
That's a powerful concept.
Another area where errors often occur is in pre-authorization.
So making sure the treatment is approved by the insurer before it's provided.
Exactly. Without proper pre-authorization, claims can be denied, leaving doctors in a difficult position.
That's a nightmare scenario.
With blockchain, pre-authorization could be automated and streamlined, reducing the risk of errors and delays.
So less paperwork, faster approvals, and ultimately happier doctors and patients.
Precisely. And let's not forget about timely filing.
Meaning?
Submitting claims within the required deadline.
Yes. The dreaded deadlines.
Missing a deadline can be costly, but with blockchain, claim submission could be automated, ensuring that deadlines are always met.
That would take a huge burden off of doctors and their staff.
Absolutely. And these are just a few examples.
So blockchain has the potential to address a whole range of billing challenges.
Right. And by focusing on these areas now, even before blockchain is widely adopted, doctors can significantly improve their billing accuracy and efficiency.
It's about laying the groundwork for a smoother transition to a more transparent and efficient system.
Exactly. And it's about taking control of your billing process to maximize revenue and minimize headaches.
That sounds like a win-win to me.
It certainly does.
Now let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the potential benefits of blockchain.
Right.
But are there any real-world examples of this technology being used in workers' comp billing today?
There are a few emerging use cases.
Tell me more.
For example, some insurers are exploring the use of blockchain to verify medical credentials.
So making sure the doctors treating patients are properly licensed and qualified.
Exactly. This can help to prevent fraud and ensure that patients are receiving care from legitimate providers.
That's a crucial safeguard.
Absolutely. Other insurers are using blockchain to track medical equipment and supplies.
Interesting.
This can help to prevent theft, loss, and counterfeiting, which are all major problems in the healthcare industry.
And it could potentially streamline the process of ordering and tracking equipment.
Precisely. And we're starting to see pilot programs exploring the use of blockchain for secure data sharing between healthcare providers.
So making it easier for doctors to share patient information with each other?
Exactly. This can improve care coordination and reduce the risk of errors.
Those are all really promising examples.
They are.
And it sounds like we're just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of blockchain's potential in workers' comp.
I agree. As the technology matures and adoption grows, we can expect to see even more innovative applications emerge.
That's exciting to think about.
It is.
But even with these early successes, there are still challenges to overcome.
Of course.
What are some of the biggest hurdles facing blockchain adoption in workers' comp?
One challenge is the lack of standardized regulations.
Meaning?
Different states have different rules and regulations governing workers' comp. And until there's a more unified approach, it will be difficult to implement blockchain solutions on a large scale.
That makes sense.
Another challenge is the cost of implementation.
Blockchain technology can be expensive to set up and maintain.
Especially for smaller practices.
Right.
And then there's the issue of data privacy and security.
Which is paramount in healthcare.
Absolutely. We need to ensure that patient data is protected and used responsibly.
Those are all valid concerns.
They are.
But despite these challenges, it seems like the momentum behind blockchain is growing.
It is.
And for doctors who are paying attention, this could be a real opportunity to get ahead of the curve.
I agree. By understanding the potential benefits and challenges of blockchain, doctors can position themselves for success in the future of workers' comp billing.
So stay informed, stay engaged, and be prepared to embrace change.
Excellent advice.
Welcome back to the final part of our exploration of blockchain in workers' comp.
We've talked about the technology, the benefits, the challenges.
But now I want to shift our focus to the patient.
Excellent point.
Because at the end of the day, this is all about improving the patient experience.
Absolutely.
So how can blockchain potentially impact the lives of injured workers?
In many ways, actually.
Tell me more.
First and foremost, blockchain can empower patients by giving them more control over their own medical data.
How so?
With blockchain, patients can have direct access to their medical records, treatment plans, and billing information.
So no more waiting for records to be transferred between providers or insurers.
Exactly. Patients can easily share their information with anyone they choose, streamlining the care coordination process.
That sounds incredibly convenient.
It is. And it can also lead to better informed decisions.
Because patients have all the information they need at their fingertips.
Precisely. They can track their progress, understand their treatment options, and feel more confident in their care.
That's a huge step forward in patient empowerment.
It is. And blockchain can also enhance patient privacy and security.
We talked about this earlier from the doctor's perspective.
Right.
But how does it benefit the patient?
Blockchain's encryption and decentralized nature make it incredibly difficult for unauthorized individuals to access or alter patient data.
So patients can have peace of mind knowing that their sensitive medical information is protected.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the potential for faster claims processing and payments.
We touched on this earlier as well.
Right.
But how does this directly benefit patients?
With blockchain, patients could receive their benefits more quickly, reducing financial stress and allowing them to focus on their recovery.
That's a significant advantage, especially for those who are unable to work and rely on those benefits.
Absolutely. And then there's the potential for improved transparency and trust in the system.
We've talked a lot about transparency throughout this series, but how does it specifically benefit patients?
When patients can track their claims, see their status in real time, and understand how decisions are being made, it fosters a greater sense of trust in the system.
So it's about building a system that is fair, equitable, and accountable.
Precisely.
Those are all incredibly compelling benefits.
They are.
But are there any potential downsides or concerns from the patient's perspective?
There are a few things to consider.
Such as?
One concern is the digital divide.
Meaning?
Not everyone has access to the technology or the digital literacy skills needed to navigate a blockchain-based system.
That's a valid point. We need to ensure that everyone has equal access to the benefits of this technology.
Absolutely. Another concern is data security.
But we just talked about how blockchain enhances security.
Right, but no system is foolproof.
So there's always a risk of breaches or misuse of data.
There is. And it's important to have robust security measures in place to mitigate those risks.
That's reassuring to know.
And finally, there's the question of patient autonomy.
Meaning?
With increased automation and data sharing, it's important to ensure that patients retain control over their own medical information and decisions.
So they have the right to choose who has access to their data and how it's used.
Exactly. Patient empowerment should always be a priority.
Those are all important considerations.
They are.
But overall, it seems like the potential benefits of blockchain for patients far outweigh the risks.
I agree. Blockchain has the potential to transform the patient experience in workers' comp, making the system more transparent, efficient, and patient-centered.
That's an exciting prospect.
It is.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our three-part exploration of blockchain in workers' comp. We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics of the technology to its potential impact on doctors, insurers, and patients. It's clear that while there are still challenges to overcome, the potential benefits are immense. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Stay informed, stay engaged, and be open to the possibilities that this technology holds for the future. Thank you for listening to Workers Comp Unwrapped.
Thank you.
If you found value in today's episode, share it with your fellow medical providers and healthcare specialists. For more information, contact us at lena.klein@medicallienmgt.com or visit our website, medicallienmgt.com.